Gore, there was some trouble with my microphone. Let's make sure you're being heard.
I can shout.
Mr. Gore Vidal has rarely had trouble being heard. His voice goes above the masses. Well, Gore, we're at a seminar on the subject of history and fiction. And as far as I can think, hardly any other novelist in our time has approached history more meticulously, more assiduously, more aggressively than you have. I know you famously, I don't mean to steal your jokes, but you famously called this the United States of amnesia. And
I'd forgotten that.
You'd forgotten that. And I remember you once saying to me that you were trying to teach this nation something. Would you address this business a little bit of the United States of amnesia, our lack of historical understanding, and what's gone wrong, and how, as a novelist, you've been able to respond to this crisis?
Well, we have the worst educational system of any major government on earth. Mm-hmm. And until you have better teachers, better textbooks, until you take the country seriously, mm-hmm. I don't know that there's much to be done about it. Every politician says, oh, I want to be known as the education president, even the one about to go home. And the only education we ever got out of him, was don't do that again. That was a cautionary tale. There's a wonderful book, by the way, I'm reading called Family of Secrets by, what's his name again?
Gosh, what is that guy? Russ Baker.
Russ Baker. Not the one we knew from the New York Times.
Not the famous Russell Baker, but the infamous
He spent many years on it, and it's a family, forgive me, Bushes and Bushettes, but a family of criminals. Mm-hmm. And why they're not all in jail, I don't know. And I have just been, if I seem a little dazed, I've been reading about their crimes and proposed crimes and how they got away with it. Because the press is venal, easily bought in one way or another. And to see what they're doing, I mean, I've just been reading the section on the weapons of mass destruction and invading. Karl Rove, an advisor to this marvelous president, Karl Rove really said, it's pretty clear that you can get anything you want done as president if you can start a war. Isn't that wonderful? I mean, you start a war. And so Junior did. And here we are.
You'd have to say, Gore, that you anticipate this whole scenario very much in your series of novels about American empire. In the Chronicles of Empire, which is a series of 7 novels, reaching back to colonial times and taking the panorama of American history up to, say, even the year 2000, we see again and again a collusion going on here between the press and the government.
Well, it's not been a happy experience for us, the people, but no, it's strange things went wrong, and the Constitution does have flaws in it. Mm. And I hear, what I think are rather intelligent commentators, they couldn't figure out why we had the Electoral College. They couldn't figure out all kinds of things, why you had to be born in the United States. I thought anybody who knew any American history knew that that was put into the Constitution to keep Alexander Hamilton from becoming president because he was born in the Caribbean, and everybody hated him in government. And I thought, now that's a basic thing, part of our history. And when nobody cares about it, and then suddenly, and I think in 1 week, we lost a lot of habeas corpus. We lost the thing that happened at Runnymede, Magna Carta, which was the last president England ever left us as they were heading to the east and out of here. And that was an extraordinary thing to have lost that. And that is one of the building blocks of our system. And I sit in this, I think I was brought up in Washington, D.C., in the House of a professional politician, senator. And we had a magnificent president then, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And that was a great man, hated by the Bush family, particularly going all the way back to Prescott Bush, an obscure member of the Senate from Connecticut. They all hated Roosevelt because he was a communist. And he was going to do this, and he liked black people. And he was going to destroy everything. These people did a lot of damage, and I could hear it, the voice of the right wing then every time the senator from Arizona saw fit to bestow his wisdom upon us in the campaign. And he was making the case that Obama wants to become president so he can tax all the poor people in the country. What's he going to do with the money? You know, I mean, what are they going to live on? 5 minutes after Obama would be out of the shot, as they say, there we would hear. There would be a spokesman for the senator from Arizona. He's going to tax and tax and spend and spend. That was 1936. I remember that campaign. It was Alfred M. Landon trying to defeat Roosevelt, which he failed to do. They are still at the same old watering hole.
Can we talk a little bit?
As somebody once said, everything on earth changes except the avant-garde theater.
Gore, I think a lot of people here are interested in the subject of historical fiction and the use of the past as a kind of mirror, well, say, reflection of the present and a mirror of the future, as Eric Foner said earlier today. And I wonder if you could just reflect a little bit on how you came to write the American Chronicles and your, in a sense, to give us your view of history from a novelist viewpoint, how you worked.
I was brought up in the engine room, you know, which is the Senate. And I acted, my grandfather was blind from the age of 10, and I used to lead him on the floor of the Senate. And I'd find a seat for myself, easier then than now. And I was about to say this, there's a funny story about Roosevelt. He was not very mechanically minded, and he had to use one of these chairs for his entire 5 terms. Didn't he get elected to 6 terms? 7. And he got stuck. The chair wouldn't work, and he was trying to get from his office into the cabinet room, and everything broke down. So there was no Secret Service. They'd all gone to Dallas for the weekend. And he said, you know, get me out of here. And so they couldn't find it. There were no stewards around the White House who would dare move him. He was like the emperor. So he said, the Navy Department is right next door, and you send for one of those sailors and have him push me out. He trusted the Navy. I don't think he trusted anybody else in Washington. And he said, the kid came over from the Navy and started to push the president across his office into his secretary's office. He wasn't there. And into the cabinet room. And it was the red shoes all over again. The sailor couldn't stop. And he was shaking with nerves. The president was beginning to shake too. And later he said, you know, of course, I thought of assassination. Presidents do, you know. And as he was being taken on this long trip across the entire White House, with the kid shaking behind him, and the kid is out of control, no Secret Service, nobody's around, everybody's in Dallas. And he said, the boy, just the sailor, just saw an open door and drove him into a closet.